welcome back, everybody. This is Vicki Brown, and you're listening and watching Management Matters. I have two great guests with me today, and we're going to talk about mentoring. First, I have Suzanne Ferris, and Suzanne is the Associate Vice President for Business Affairs in HR at Stanford University, retired. Disclaimer, she's also my wife. Um, and then we also have Sherry Moore, who's been in the business for 30 years as professional HR consultant, HR professional. And we have in common, we're both adjunct professors at San Jose State University. Welcome to the show, both of you, and I look forward to our discussion today.
Thank you.
We want
Thanks
to talk
for having us.
You're welcome. We want to talk about mentorship. For one reason, I don't know if you know it, it's National Mentor Month. And I wanted to get this in because mentors are so important in our lives, whether it's just growing up, whether it's just being women in this world, in our workplace, wherever. And I don't believe a lot of newly promoted managers have an idea of what mentorship is, how they can become mentors, how they can find mentors. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So if you're up for that, let's get her going.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So the first question I think that people might want to know is, you're hired, you're promoted, you got a boss. How is your boss different from a mentor or from a coach that you might have? Can you talk about some of the ways those roles are different?
Well, I mean, your boss is someone that you have an obligation to and has an obligation to you. So in that regard, there are obligations. However, your boss has a responsibility to hold you accountable and to ensure that you perform in such a way that, they're achieving whatever organizational goals that they have. A mentor, on the other hand, still holds you accountable, but in a different way. So there's no performance tied to it. There's no, raises or I could get fired. What a mentor does is hold you accountable to yourself versus accountable to an organization or the organization's goals and objectives.
Okay, so it's all about you and nothing but you.
Correct. I mean, when I think about the mentors I've had in my life, what they've done is to help me grow, and they've done that by, first and foremost, ensuring that I'm doing, what I'm doing, seeking them out for mentorship, or, sometimes people take me under their wing. And yet it's about growth and me owning my growth and development, addressing my blind spots. Your manager or boss either A, may or may not have the time, but B, is looking at you in a completely different way. You are someone who is there to achieve an objective.
Mm-hmm.
And the objective may or may not be about you.
True. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Sue?
Yeah, everything that Sherry said, I agree with. To me, it boils down to two basic tenets. And the first is, our main job as an employee is to make our boss look good, our manager. I mean, we've talked about that before. And the difference, so if you're asking your boss to also be your mentor, then they have almost a built-in conflict, because their job is to make sure you're performing, and your job is to make sure they look good. So where is mentoring? Where might that happen? The other thing for me is it boils down to the word safe. A manager needs to constantly be evaluating your performance, and are you meeting expectations? Are you reaching your potential?
Mm-hmm.
A mentor is a safe place to go and say, I have no clue what to do with this assignment. Where do I start? Who do I talk to? And that doesn't come back to you as a performance issue. It's a safe space.
But that kind of begs the question for me as a manager. I want my people to come to me and say, hey, boss, I don't have a clue how to do this. I want them to feel safe as their boss that we're going to work through this. But I get the differences there. So
Yeah.
so
I think
that
that
go
the
ahead.
fact that you want to is admirable. I think it's a rare occurrence that most employees would be that vulnerable with their direct manager. I
Well, and
mean,
especially, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sue.
I was just saying, I can remember so many times that I kind of faked my way through it until
Mm-hmm.
I got somebody to help me get started.
Yeah, I mean, it. I think the only time that happens is when your mentor becomes your boss.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have a boss that maybe you've asked to mentor you in the process. But I think the only time I've ever seen it happen is when your mentor becomes your boss, because then you already have that relationship. Or
Okay.
if you have some other relationship where you can be vulnerable, whatever that happens to be, because it and especially in this day and this time, and if you've watched the viral TikTok video of someone getting fired, um, people are getting let go for a reason or no reason, whatever that is.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there is a reluctance to show your cards because you don't know when you're going to be on the other end of that computer monitor being told that your services are no longer needed.
Yeah, well, hopefully through, this series of podcasts and, the work that we do, we can encourage the newly promoted to try to create those safe spaces. So that leads me to the question, where do you find a mentor? How do you go about knowing that I'm new at this? I don't know what I'm doing. I need help with this project. Maybe I need a mentor. How do you do it?
I mean, some of the best organizations I've been established with or involved in had formal mentoring programs.
Okay.
But let's say you're not working for one of those few, and you are looking for someone to help you, like you're talking about, Vicki. That's a place I would encourage you to have a conversation with your manager, or maybe even with your manager's manager, because they even have a broader view of the organization and who might be a good person for mentoring for you.
Okay.
But you know, that's when you just start asking. These are the kind of things I want to learn. Who do you suggest that I reach out to?
And you may find out that your organization actually does have a mentoring program. You just didn't know about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
I think there are so many interesting ways to find mentors. In some of my roles, I've gone out to coffee with
Mm-hmm.
peers or people who are peers of my manager because you get to meet all kinds of people, and even people in other departments who are doing similar work, just to meet them and find out who they are and what they're about. And many times I've just clicked with somebody who has said, hey, let me show you the ropes around here. and it works out really well. So don't underestimate the power of networking, because
Yes.
you
Yes.
know it helps you in a lot of ways, finding a mentor, finding a job. The other thing, and I'm going to bring in the DEIB angle, is go to employee resource groups that you might
Yes.
want to be a part of or are a part of, and ask around. Or even just go to those groups and meet with people and network there, and you might find somebody. So I think that those groups, and many organizations have them now, are a great way to network and find someone that you already have something in common with, which
Mm-hmm.
is an interest in some aspect of DEIB, and you've already got a place to start, and it's a safe zone.
For people who may not, because we're dealing with new managers here, some small companies, some large companies, they may not know what employee resource group is or DEIB. Can either or both of you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah.
Sure. So DEIB is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, heretofore known as just diversity. And employee resource groups are groups of people who are, affiliated through one aspect of diversity. Could be any number of things. Could be, a female networking group, an LGBTQ plus group. And it's not just people who, when I say affiliate, are that. There are,
Mm-hmm.
frequently allies in those groups as well, who want to either learn more or drive what that group is about. So that's what I mean when I say you already have something in common. Is you're there, you're both there for a purpose. But employee resource groups are frequently driven out of DEIB initiatives or organizations. Not always, but frequently they are.
Cool, thanks. So when I'm looking for a mentor, is it do I really need to look for someone that does the same work that I do, or is it preferable that I'm maybe working or looking for someone that has a whole different perspective about the organization? So can you speak to that?
The easiest answer is yes
Got it.
to
Okay,
both.
let's move on.
um, Sometimes depending on what your goals are for mentoring, you may want the the next person in line succession wise, or a couple of people above, um, as a mentor. How do I grow in my profession at this organization? To answer that kind of question. Um, I can remember a point in my life where I really needed to understand finance better. It
Hmm.
was not something that I ever um, got an expertise in. And so I looked for a CFO kind of individual to help me understand the finance side of the business. So I
Okay.
went in a very different direction in terms of skill sets and type of role that they had.
Okay, but I just got promoted, so I'm not going to go looking for a CFO or my manager's manager. I'm scared to death just to walk into the building because now I have responsibility. How soon into the job do you think maybe I should start looking for a mentor, and where do I go as the newbie?
And I mean, don't discount your own peer group.
Okay.
You may have people that are at the same level that you are in the organization, but
Mm-hmm.
they're 3 weeks older in their job than you, or
Okay.
3 years older in their job. And that may be your first resource just to get started. And then, further down the line, ask them who are people that might have helped you out and given you a hand up um, in the organization. But your peers may be your best mentors to start off with.
Okay. I think, Sherry, you were going to answer, you were going to talk about mentors being in the same profession. I didn't give you a chance to talk about that a little bit. Good idea, bad idea, or as Sue says, yes.
I would say yes. It depends on what you're looking for. Typical HR answer, it depends. It because I think, just as in friendships, mentors can be in your life, for a season and a reason or for the long term. And it depends on what kind of mentorship you're looking for. So, for example, my longest term mentor is someone I worked with, let's see, 28 years ago. And so he's someone that first general manager I ever worked for, and became a mentor after I left the organization. Although was very supportive while I was there. And, that's someone who's been in my life as a mentor for a very long time. And I've run a lot of things up the flagpole. To Sue's point, some people are there for a reason and a season. And sometimes it develops into more, and sometimes it doesn't. The thing that I have found with mentoring is that there's a natural flow to it. And when the flow ends, that's okay. Right.
Okay.
Because you
Answer my
have to
next
have,
question.
yeah, I mean, you have to have relationship and flow and all of those things. And some of those relationships last a very long time. I mean, I've known people for a very long time, and some of them not so much, because either the reason for the mentorship went away, or it went away and we just kind of drifted apart. So it really does depend on what you're looking for. And some of those things just develop naturally. And it's not a matter of what you're looking for. Sometimes it finds you.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah. So I've got this mentor. Well, first let me ask this. Again, I'm the newbie. How do I bring up the idea of a mentor to my boss? They've just hired me, and they've hired me because I was a great individual contributor. But I know that I don't know what I'm doing. What I don't know is they don't really expect me to know what I'm doing at that point, and that's okay. But I'm feeling the need to get some more information, but I'm scared. I mean, let's be honest. When you first put those shoes on, it's frightening. How do I tactfully say, I would like a mentor, but yeah, I'm still competent and you're still going to get a great manager out of me without my boss thinking, did I make the wrong choice?
Mm.
You know, your boss hired you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They see potential in you, and they they know what you're capable of, or they have a good idea. And I've always found it wise to do a little bit of testing the landscape to ensure that my manager isn't going to be threatened by this whole thing about mentoring. To a bit of our earlier conversation, not all managers get it. And
Okay.
so I don't know that you necessarily ask for a mentor, because sometimes that word itself puts the manager off and says, "Oh, so you want someone so you can go around me and talk about me?"
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes your manager is not confident in their capabilities. So let's face it, we all have imposter syndrome from time to time. And managers, and even senior executives. So perhaps instead of using the term mentor, what we
Mm-hmm.
talk about is, who would you recommend I work with where I can broaden my skill set and learn additional things? because I know that I'm going to have a lot of questions and you may not be able to answer them because you've got things on your plate or you're traveling or whatever you do. Or, if I have a
Yeah.
question and you're not here, who would you recommend I go to?
That's pretty tactful. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sitting here racking my brain, Sherry, on how to do what Vicky was asking. And your explanation is fabulous.
Yeah. It's
Um,
perfect.
and I love the fact that you narrowed it to maybe this project I'm working on or this task. So it isn't threatening to the manager. Um, and yeah, and words matter. So, who can I turn to if you're not available? Because I don't want to
Yeah.
bug you with every little minute question I have. Who's done this before?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And maybe
Good,
if you do
good one.
it that way, that gives you an opportunity to see different types of mentoring and find out who you might click with that could help you further on down the line. I
yeah.
like that a lot. Um,
And you're kind of, I mean, to that point, Vicky, you're kind of testing out the mentor, because
Mhm.
if this
Good
is
point.
not
yes,
someone that can bring a complex concept down to real life, it may not be the right person for you.
right.
So yeah, so you can test them and stay with them or not.
Yeah, that's perfect. I have one final question for each of you, and that is what takeaways did you either gain or no, let me rephrase that. What takeaways did you gain in your career, either as a mentor or a mentee,
Mm.
or your biggest takeaway?
I can remember as a mentor learning about another piece of my company's business that I had no clue about before. I didn't even know that work was being done in
Mm,
the organization, and it was critical work. Um, and I gained a tremendous amount of insight, business acumen insight from my mentee. And that was a huge takeaway.
great.
Hmm. Well, since Sue did a mentor, I feel obligated to do mentee.
You do whatever works for you. There are no rules here.
The biggest thing that I've taken away as a mentee, quite honestly, is the one thing that I talked about earlier. So with every step in my journey, especially at a younger age, because I was pretty young when I first became an executive, I felt like I didn't belong there.
Mhm.
And that feeling followed me. And so, when there was finally a name for it, imposter syndrome, um, I, I look back and I say, yep, that's exactly what it was. And I had a mentor who said to me, look, you know, many of us go through it. You're not the only one. You're
Mhm.
not the first. You won't be the last. And you have to remember that you belong there as much as anybody else, regardless of, your age or your education or whatever it happens to be. You belong there. And that was when I realized, one, that, this funny feeling in my tummy was probably never going to go away. I just had to learn how to make the butterflies fly in formation. And that I wasn't alone.
Mhm.
And that was kind of the best thing, because sometimes as you're going through this journey, you get kind of centered on what you're feeling and what you're thinking, and you think you're the only one who's ever gone through it, even though intellectually you kind of know that's not true. And it's nice to have someone who reminds you that, you are smart enough, you are, you are, you know, um, your work is good enough, and that you belong to be where you are. And I am here to help you get to where you're going. And that was the best thing I ever got from a mentor, and I think has influenced me as I mentor other people, is to say, you are good enough, and you are smart enough, and you deserve to be where you are, and that, and we're gonna, help you here and wherever you're going next.
I really
Wow.
like that. And that is a great note to end on. I want to thank you both, Suzanne and Sherry, for joining me. And hopefully, our viewers and listeners will take away from this something that helps them. So, thanks again for joining me. Have a great, wonderful day. And for those of you watching and listening out there, please feel free to contact me and subscribe. And remember, management matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.